believe this is episode 8. I'm going to go about talking about footwork here, and but before I jump into the whole footwork section, so far we've covered basically the stance, the punch, the form, and shifting. And really, if that is the core that you really want to build your foundation off. I know a lot of people, for many, that's considered boring, practicing the stance, punch, form, and the shifting, but I tell you this, if you really want to get good at Wing Chun, you really want to see your skills improve, don't be so in a rush to get to the fighting aspect of it right away. You build a solid foundation of basic skills and you can really see yourself improve a lot. And I always tell this to my students, it's not how much you know, it's what you know and how well you can do it. So if I see someone who may know the whole art but does everything half-assed, I always take the guy who knows less but mastered basically the basics. So remember that. Another thing to also emphasize is when you're training and you're having some difficulty in whatever subject, always go in reverse as far as how to fix it. So in other words, I went in a particular order of stance, punch, form, and also shifting. Everything's based off that individual foundation. So in other words, if you're having problems with your hand motions in the form, well, guess what? It's not the hand motions individually. I'm guaranteeing you that you're having difficulties with doing the punch properly. If you're finding that the foundation of your punches feel off, it feels weak, then you go back in reverse. Instead of concentrating on the punch so much, you go back in reverse and then concentrate on making sure your punch is correct as well. So, with that in mind, let's jump into episode 8, I believe, and this will be based on footwork. Okay, there are a total of 16 footwork in Wing Chun. I don't believe I'm going to show you all of them, but I'll show you basically the core footwork that you could work on in the very beginning, and we'll go into a little detail as far as what to look for with each individual footwork. Where do we start off? First, let's understand what footwork is. The first footwork that I actually showed you was the shifting. This actual shifting motion. That's the first of 16. Okay. So what do I want to do? What's the idea behind the footwork? The idea behind the footwork is, here's your stance, here's your Richi Kimima. All the footwork that I show you from now on is basically saying, control your center, and now I'm going to show you how to move that center in any direction, whether it's going forward, backwards, side, turning 180 degrees, and so forth. And all these footwork is just saying, here's your center, let me show you any way to move it with this individual footwork. When we train in the footwork in Wing Chun, it's going to be, think of it like back in the days when you were a little kid and you were learning to write, okay? When you were learning to write, there was a set pattern of how to do the footwork. For example, you have the letter A, you have to go up, down, and across in a set pattern, and the better you can stay within the lines and make it the line straight, the greater it was. It was structured, it was somewhat rigid, but the whole purpose of that was to basically say, learn how to control your pencil to make this formation. Now, when you do this individual footwork, in the very beginning, it looked rigid, it looked stiff, because you're still learning the process. It'll seem almost like robotic in the way you're doing the movement. But that's called development. You gotta understand the difference between development and application. Development is a process where you have a skill that you're trying to be able to do. Once you have that skill, you let go of the rigidity, is there such a word? Rigidity of that technique, and then you can do it freestyle. So just like how I was talking in writing, you were set to do a certain pattern to do the letter A, but just after you learn how to make the letter A, notice everyone's A looks different. It's freestyle as far as how you write it. When you do the footwork, it's the same thing as I'm stating. When you do it, there's a set pattern on how to do the footwork. It looks rigid. You're trying to do it over and over to develop a particular concept. But that's in development. In application, it doesn't even look like that. But you have the basic principle of what you're trying to develop when you're doing the footwork. Okay, so always remember that. People always try to confuse what their development and application. Two totally different things. If you try to use what you developed or the motions you developed in the actual street fight application, you're going to lose, okay? Because that's like a set pattern, and you try to do a set pattern freestyle, it's not going to work, all right? All right, anyway, hopefully that made sense. Let's go over the first footwork. The first footwork I said was basically shifting, so I have a whole video on that, work on that. If you're struggling with any of these footworks, go back to the shift. If you're struggling with the shift, go back to the stance, okay? So the first one's going to be forward step. Forward step, I open up my Ichikima. Don't shortcut it like I just did there. But I open up my Ichikima. Forward step is simply a slight adjustment with my foot. I'm going to do one side only, just for time's sake. I'm just going to make a slight adjustment with my right foot and take a step forward. And know this throughout the whole time. Let's do that one more time. Okay? Don't worry about the hands right now, keep it with the feet. I make a slight adjustment, and then I take a step forward, and then my body moves and follows along with it. Okay? If as simple as this idea is to do forward step, I tell you, this is a lot of people struggle with just doing this forward step. And I'll go into detail just from the idea of the forward step itself. First of all, when we do this, notice when I do the forward step, I'm 50-50, okay? Legs basically shoulder width apart, weight 50-50, always remaining 50-50 when I'm doing the footwork. Footwork in Wing Chun looks natural. Like I've always stressed with everything that we do, everything is natural, what your body naturally does, and just knowing the structure behind it. So when I adjust my right foot here, notice I just make a little adjustment. Now a lot of times people overturn their foot, and when they overturn their foot, their hips turn to the side and their shoulder turns to the side. So they end up walking forward step like this. Well, you remember, if I ask you to walk normal, you're walking normal, okay? Shoulders square, hips square, okay? So same thing here. When I turn my foot here, notice I make a little slight adjustment here, shoulders are square, hips square, and I still maintain that throughout the entire time. Okay, that's a forward step. What I want to show you is the most common mistake, and this will be applied to everything that we do. This is a little bit deeper on how to look at it, but like I said, footwork is what? Having control of your center and moving it. Okay, so what does that mean? And the best way to illustrate it is from a side view. It looks like footwork's saying, I'm learning how to take a step. Okay? I adjust my foot and I take a step. But in reality, what you're doing is move the center in order to take the step. And there's two different processes with that. For example, think of it this way. If I'm taking steps, your foot will look like this. I adjust my foot, I take a step, and my center follows afterwards. It almost like your center drag. So for example, it looks like turn, step, and then I'm exaggerating, but notice the legs step first and the body follows afterwards. That's the first process, and that's the wrong process of how you want to do it. You want to think of it more in this sense, that when you do your footwork, you want to move your center. So in other words, I move my center and let the feet follow to adjust me in place. The difference is, between the two, is, think of it, I have a glass of water on my head, okay? A glass of water on my head. I don't want to spill it. If I take a step first, and then bring my center in place, it's like saying, okay, I have my center, I'm going to lose my center, and then I'm going to put my center back in place. Well, during that whole process, you just spilled all the water off your head, okay? Looking at it the other way, you have the glass of water on your head, okay? I maintain it at all times. I don't want to spill it. I turn my foot, I move my center, and I have my feet adjusted so that throughout the whole process, I have total control of my center when I do the forward step. All right? So two totally, if you look at it, if you have a good eye, you'll see it right away in how people do the footwork. But hopefully that really illustrates the difference between how you're doing it. All right, magic of editing. So that was the concept behind forward step. So remember, that idea of move the center, don't take steps, move the center to adjust the steps. Not take the steps to make the center follow afterwards. That applies to all the footwork I'm going to show you. So for forward step, right here, like I'll show you again, adjust the foot, take a step forward, and then let the foot naturally adjust with it. If you're moving the center properly, you'll look like this. See, I take a step, and it's like my feet are combined here together. So when I take a step, I don't have a drag in my footwork. So for example, I'm like here, and then I don't drag this footwork behind. Since my feet are combined with my lower stance and the upper stance, when I adjust my foot, I take a step, what happens? This foot naturally adjusts with it. It doesn't lag like this from it. It has a certain distance, like a band, where it'll stretch out a certain amount, but in order to keep the balance, it has to come with it. If you don't have that center control, you'll have like this, you'll step, and then you'll lose that control of your center for that period of time, okay? So that's forward step. So the main thing to remember with forward step, as far as common mistakes, is don't overturn the foot, just a little adjustment. And that adjustment, there's a lot of detail to that, but let's just keep this kind of footwork for this episode simple. Adjust the foot, take a step, and then make sure you're square. Shoulders and also hip square, okay? That's forward step. Next footwork is backward step. Backward step's a little bit different. Maintain the same footwork here. Here, imagine here, same rule applies. Shoulder square, hip square. So I'm going to take my foot's going to move back, like I'm going to draw a straight line back. And when I draw a straight line back, my feet also adjust too. All right? So from here, backward step, step back and adjust. Okay? One more time. Step back and adjust. Right? Most common thing that people have, as far as my years of teaching this, is once again the hips turn. So if you can imagine, my feet are on a particular railroad track, right, throughout the whole time. You don't want the train to derail. So from here, if I draw a straight line back, my foot goes perfectly straight. But if I turn the waist a little, what happens? My foot goes in smaller. So it's less than shoulder width apart. See? So for example, I start here, step back and turn, I'm still shoulder width apart. Okay? But if I turn just a little, if I lose focus on my shoulder and waist, and turn just a little, and I step back, notice, look, I'm already off to the side. I'm no longer shoulder width apart. Right? I still want to do what? Maintain the Ichikima throughout any type of footwork. So from here, turn, step back, and turn the foot slightly to adjust it. Okay? Most common problem with backward step, same thing as usual. Backward step is here, and then people lean back and then try to take a step back. No, you don't want to lean back, control that center. I adjust myself, and then maintain that center, and then make my feet adjust to my center from that point on. Right? That's backward step. Let's see. Oh, yeah, there's so much detail to go into. Backward step. Why do we have it? First of all, you never actively step backwards in Wing Chun. In other words, you're in a fight situation. I'm not going to go. He kicks, and I step back here. Okay, that's not the reason we practice backward step. Backward step is if there's a force, let's say you merge your triangle with somebody, and the force compresses your triangle, then you know how to move backwards based off the force. All right. So in other words, I feel the force, and I know my center will actually adjust from that. I'm not saying, oh, something's coming, nothing's actually touched my force yet, and I step backwards from that. You don't do that. Only if the force dictates it, you adjust to learn how to step backwards, and that's why you actually have backward stepping in there. So far we have what? Forward step and backward step. See, I combine the two together. But I do suggest that when you do this, practice it individually first. Forward step, forward step, forward step, backward step, backward step, backward step. Don't combine it yet until you feel comfortable with each individual footwork. So that's one, that's number two. Number three is the bracing. You see, I'll do both of them. This is bracing, this is what it looks like. Bracing, backward bracing, forward bracing. Okay? Bracing, brace, brace. Forward brace, backward brace. The idea behind bracing is simply saying, is making adjustments, all right? So in other words, if my opponent is here at a certain distance, if I was just a step further into him, then I basically jam myself up, all right? But bracing is different. The best way to explain it is from this point of view. if you can see this line where I'm drawing, okay? Look at where my center is. If I take a forward step, all right, my center actually started from here and moves all the way here. If I take a backward step, my center starts from here and moves all the way back from this original point of line. Bracing, on the other hand, is adjusting it, but the center pretty much, for the most part, will usually stay in the same place. So for example, even if I take a backward brace, notice my center is generally still within this line area, okay? As opposed to if I did the backward step, my center moved all the way back from this line to here. But if I'm here and I did backward brace, notice my center is still pretty much in the same spot. Forward brace, my center is still in the same spot, almost. But I'm just simply adjusting my body to make it more comfortable with the situation, okay? That's the main difference that you'll see between forward brace and backward brace. With the bracing, the best way to think of it is this. Think of it as soon as you take a step, all right? You're initiating a step. As soon as you initiate the step, you're gonna turn. So in other words, I want to take a step this way. So as soon as I take a step, I'm gonna turn the body to take that step, see? I'm not gonna take a step and then turn. That's not bracing, okay? By the time I step, I turn, okay? If I want to go backwards, by the time I draw my leg backwards from here, I turn as well. So the turning motion, you can say, leads to the step. Not the I step and then I turn motion. Step, turn. That's the wrong way to brace. The correct way to brace is turn and step. Turn, step. Turn, step. Turn, step. Turn, step. Well, bracing you'll use all the time because you're constantly adjusting your stance, especially once you close the gap. When you're in Chi-Sao, you don't have the big full movements anymore because you just have to make the small adjustments to adjust each time because you're already within sticky hand range, okay? So bracing, you're gonna be turning and stepping at the same time. So for example, we'll do one forward brace. If I'm here with forward brace, if I turn and step, I'm actually, with this kind of footwork, I'm actually maximizing the full amount. So for example, I'm turning a full 45-degree angles. Notice my body is not fighting that. In other words, I don't brace and then keep half my body going this way and the other body, this part going that way. My body is connected as one. When I turn, my whole body's connected. See, my whole body's connected. Even when I go backwards and then I go forward, right? Okay? That's forward and backward bracing. The footwork, in theory, looks easy, but I tell you, it takes a lot of work to be able to develop the footwork, okay? I'm going to keep it at that for now. We'll add more. We definitely still have, let's see, I did forward step, backward step, forward brace, backward brace, okay? We'll keep it at that for now. You also have, the next one I'll show you is 3-angle step, step slide. All right, let me start over. 3-angle step, step slide, and then a 180, and then that's a 7. The pattern I'll actually show you is it comes out like this if you want it to combine it together. Forward step, backward step, forward brace, backward brace, 3-angle step, step slide, 180, and then shift. And that's 8 footworks all combined. All right. And there's a lot of detail to go with the footwork, and you know, these videos are here to help you, but just to put every detail on it would just be hours and hours of videos, just to give you the full picture of what it involves to do the footwork. For now, just try to remember the same thing, the simple rules. Shoulder width apart, keep it 50-50. Square, and remember, maintain the center at all time. When you do footwork, you're not having the center, losing it, and then regaining the center back when you do footwork. You want to have control and total control of your footwork all the time when you're moving, regardless of what you're doing. Okay, so hopefully this helps. The second video will be on the remainder, the 3-angle step slide, 180-degree turn, and I'll go more into detail as far as all the steps involved into that. And then we're just going to start getting into the fun stuff. We're going to go into single sticky hand, double sticky hand, and leg development. And then we can get into the really cool stuff, especially when you start getting into the chi sao. But for now, hopefully this helps you with your footwork and practice, right?